Ridiculous Crime is a production of iHeartRadio.
Zaron.
Hello.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's so fun to see you.
I know. It's so fun to see me, too.
I look forward to it.
I hear that all the time.
I know. Everybody says it.
I know.
I love to see Elizabeth.
Do you know what's ridiculous?
I do. My jazz album collection. Not that, okay, I start that wrong. Not the album collection itself, but I was going through it. And I don't mean like, well, I'll put it this way. The covers.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, these covers are amazing. Some of these covers are, I mean, I'm not just like the cool ones. I mean, some have iconic photography, Blue Note records. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm talking like even later. And also, I don't mean like Herb Alpert's Whipped Cream and Other Delights, right? I don't mean like, vaguely sexualized imagery. I'm talking about like Count Basie just dropping an album cover that is an atomic bomb going off. Like,
okay.
You know, here, I got it called up.
I see that.
one,
okay.
right? But then there's other ones. There's like Mingus dressed like a Chinese emperor.
Why not?
Right? He's just got a flowing gold robes, a headdress against a dragon wall that's also gold.
God
but
bless.
Then you can take like old man Coleman Hawkins, the Hawk, still blowing tough, right? And he's like, I'm blowing so tough, I blow smoke. And he literally is the photo.
That's a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
Him just blowing plumes of smoke like an angry dragon out of his nose. Or one of my favorites, Eddie Harris. And producer D, beyond this one, the reason why I'm talking
Oh.
and that's the name of the album.
That's the name of it. What is in the street?
That's his broken saxophone case. He smashed down and he just got his saxophone left and he's like coming at the camera like you're the viewer.
Interns, you've got to make sure we put all of this on Instagram.
Yeah, I'll send them all the stuff.
They put the What's Ridiculous stuff in the stories.
Oh, nice.
It's not on the regular posts. So that's why you got to check the posts and the stories on Instagram.
There you go. Good to know.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. So, boom. Isn't that ridiculous?
That is ridiculous.
I love those. I was like, this album collection, I should put these on my wall. What? I got them all facing each other.
No, let the freak flags fly.
Open it up.
Exactly. Do you want to know what else is ridiculous?
Oh my God, please.
Going to jail and writing about other people's crimes.
Ooh, that's a spin.
This is Ridiculous Crime, a podcast about absurd and outrageous capers, heists, and cons. It's always 99% murder-free and 100% ridiculous.
Yeah!
Oh, that was good. Did that hurt a little?
No, it felt good. I was releasing something.
Nice. So I have two financial scammers for you today.
Heck yeah.
They have somewhat parallel storylines that then intersect.
Wow, look at you.
I know. Look at me, so creative. And along the way, Zaron,
yes,
ridiculousness.
Oh my God, the adventure awaits.
So I'm going to start us off with Marcus Schrenker.
Okay.
And he was born in 1970 in Warsaw, Indiana.
Yay, nice.
See the little fake out I did?
Totally. You almost threw me.
So he's a good Midwestern boy. Thank you so much. Good Midwestern boy, very ambitious and driven. He went to Purdue. He got a business degree. Yeah. And then while he was there, he added another interest to his retinue, aviation.
Good interest.
Flight.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So like he gets out of college. He marries a former cheerleader. They live in this suburb of Indianapolis. He's this successful business investment consultant guy.
Okay, sure.
All the trappings of that lifestyle. So he's this giant house, fancy cars, expensive suits. He's got boats, planes.
Wow.
Like a plane he can fly all by himself.
Are you kidding me? And this is all like Indiana, late 90s?
100%, yeah.
Wow.
So according to CBS News, quote, at 38, he controlled an impressive slate of businesses. Through his Heritage Wealth Management Incorporated, Heritage Insurance Services Incorporated, and Icon Wealth Management, he was responsible for providing financial advice and managing portfolios worth millions.
Look at him.
Look at him. He told his clients that he would take the standard 1% management fee, and he would only make money if they made money.
Is that the standard? I don't have a money manager.
Who knows? Perhaps. I don't know.
My money manager is gravity.
My money manager.
Look at it going away.
My money manager is my wallet.
Yeah.
In my pocketbook.
There you go.
And the ATM card. So here's what he really did, though.
Please.
He put their money into annuities, and he took huge commissions from that.
Okay.
So then if they wanted to cash out and get their money back, they owed these massive surrender fees on the annuities.
Oh.
Or if Schrenker took the money out as the broker, they'd still be on the hook for the surrender fees and for cashing that policy out early. Because this is how annuities work, right?
Please, I don't quite know.
Neither do I. It's a contract that's issued and distributed by an insurance company. So the insurance company pays out income to the purchaser of the contract. So it's like life insurance, but the payout isn't after you die. So annuities, they're generally used for retirement income. Like you pay in and then you get the payments regularly when you retire. And that makes sure you don't run out of money or something.
Okay, I've heard of these advertised.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure.
They advertise these on my old radio shows, like for back in the day, like in the like I started in 1928.
There are two things I need to say about my complete ignorance on this. One, I would like for my mother not to call and berate me on the fact that I have financial illiteracy and she teaches business law and she's a formidable business lawyer. Sorry, Mom. I don't know what an annuity is. And also anyone listening in on this conversation, I honestly don't care. So don't try and explain.
I just know lottery winners, they try to like flip them to get them to take the annuity.
Right.
And then also people who get big settlements, they try to take their settlements and get them like, we'll give you an annuity.
Yeah. So
I just know it seems like a scheme.
It seems like you get this lump sum like that you hand over and you're basically investing it. It's locked in.
Yeah, they're taking those payments at whatever rate they get them.
When people explain financial stuff to me, it's like when they explain board game directions or card game. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Well, you ever heard like when things just like flat out like on the sound thing, it just turns into white noise like
yes.
That's what happens. People start talking about money. I'm like,
I don't know. So most of his clients though, right? They're like us. They have no idea what they're buying
good
into.
suckers like us.
Yeah,
yes.
they thought they were doing straight up market investments, which I understand that. Foreign currency investments.
Okay.
Sometimes he called them insurance products.
Oh, like
which
derivatives?
It was vague enough to sound good to like those like me who don't know
I threw that term
it.
out there. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, it's not. I know that a derivative is...
It's derived from other
I think you're like betting
assets.
On a bet, basically.
Yeah, it's like, someone owns a home and we're going to give you a piece of that.
Mom, I'm so sorry. So sorry. You're not the failure. I'm the failure. Okay, so Schrenker, he picked up most of his clients via word of mouth.
Okay.
This one guy, Joe Mazzone from Alabama, he told CNN, quote, "When you're a pilot, you trust. That's what you do and what you're used to doing. His modus operandi is he flies into your city dressed up in $1,000 suit and sits down with you, buys you lunch, and the next thing you know, he has you on his side, and you move your money to his Heritage Wealth Management." So he's a schmoozer. Another investor.
Classic con artist.
Yeah. Charles Kinney, he befriended Schrenker in 1996, and then he bought in with him in like 2003.
Okay.
And then he got his parents to buy in to the tune of $2 million. I know. He told CNN, quote, "This guy was family to me. He's a fantastic, nice guy. He's well-spoken. His customer service was impeccable. You call the guy on the phone, you would get him. He told my parents that they were investing in various insurance products, but they didn't really know what that meant. I didn't really know either. We trusted him. He said, this is a safe place to put money, to avoid all the world's dangers like terrorism and impending doom and gloom associated with it. In that climate back then, you bought it. You believed him that he would protect your money."
You think he's also leaving out tax shelters?
2003, he's like, look, after the towers fell.
Yeah, I was really worried about my money.
You got to protect your money.
I thought they were going to hit banks with planes.
You got to just quickly give me everything. And
They're going after the banks.
Everything.
They're going after the banks with planes. The person who misunderstood 9/11.
Totally doesn't get it. Yeah. There's this Delta pilot and investor, Dave Smith. He told CNBC, quote, "There's nothing more scary than having 7 figures of money and not knowing what to do with it." Like, okay, I'll be scared.
What kind? Sorry, there's so many things that are
scarier than that. Like, come here, I'll show you. Like
it's literally that there are fewer things scarier than that.
Than having 7 figures.
The list is so much longer on the other side.
Like, yeah, he's new here.
I could take up 1 billion years giving them lists because they're scarier than that. Like a Bubba Gump shrimp thing where I'm just naming things.
He goes on. So I started asking around, hey, do you guys have a guy that's doing your money? Like, let's ask our friends that.
Yeah, hey, who's doing your money?
They're like, I don't know.
Like printing it?
Yeah, exactly. And one of my favorite co-pilots said, I would trust him with my kids. That's how much I trust this guy. And I said, Who was that guy? It was Marcus Schrenker.
Who was that masked man?
Who was that man that you trust with your kids? I feel sorry for your kids.
Seriously? You're a bad dad.
Sure, trust them. Yeah. The kids are all dead.
Stop using me as a measure of your trust.
So Smith, he put all of his savings into investments with Schrenker. But then he found out that he was locked into a 25-year annuity and that Schrenker had withdrawn 30% of his money.
25-year annuity.
Yeah. So he gets charged, Smith gets charged a $66,000 surrender fee for early withdrawal. And on top of that, it turns out that Schrenker was moving Smith's money from one annuity to the next. And every time he did it, he made a 13% commission on it. And then it incurred more surrender fees for the clients. So it's like shedding bits on that. But then...
What the hell?
Yeah. So complaints started coming into authorities where these investments were based, like Indiana, Georgia. But then he'd switch his licensing to new states, and that would create confusion about who was supposed to monitor him. According to CNBC, quote, Georgia's insurance department worked with 5 people who filed complaints over Schrenker's handling of annuities. The department eventually obtained $2.5 million in refunds for the investors, working with insurance companies that issued those annuities. By the time Georgia officials notified Indiana about Schrenker in April 2007, he had already withdrawn his Georgia insurance license. A group of relatives and friends led by Kinney next raised concerns in Kentucky, where Schrenker withdrew his license in December 2007. Indiana Insurance Commissioner Jim Alderholt said Schrenker, who had obtained an Indiana license in the interim, created confusion by pulling the out-of-state licenses. Please note, it was a group of relatives and friends.
Yeah.
So he was bilking his own family.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He got 9 clients, including a friend of 10 years and his own aunt, out of about $1.5 million.
Oh, my God.
And that's just a fraction of the scheme.
What a parasite.
Yeah, everything starts to fall apart when the economy tanks, though.
2008, yeah.
Investors were like, look, I want to put my money somewhere safer. Hey, pal,
Let me get my
I
money
trust you
back.
with my kids. Watch my kids while I go get my money back. So in 2008, Schrenker, he lost $500,000 in judgment against one of his companies when he missed a court hearing.
What?
Yeah. So this triggers investigators. They go to search his home and his office and look into possible securities violations. He starts spinning out. This is an email he sent to one of his clients. Quote, I walked out on my job about 30 minutes ago. My career is over. Over one letter in a trade error. One letter. I've had so many people yelling at me today that I couldn't figure out what was up or down. I still can't figure it out. Okay. So his wife files for divorce.
Ooh.
She said that it was because he was cheating on her, not the criming.
Oh. Do we believe her?
Well, yeah, because when their house was being searched, he wasn't home, but she was. And then she found out that, where was he? Oh, he's in Florida with his girlfriend.
Oh, girl.
So she's like, hey, hold
what
the
a
bag
devastation for her.
I know.
This is everything all in one fell swoop.
So he had to get out of this. And as a true coward, he couldn't own up to what he'd done. So he crafted a plan. Zaron, close your eyes.
Ooh, my eyes are closed.
I want you to picture it.
Yeah.
It's January 11th, 2009. You are an Air Force pilot. You fly an F-15 fighter jet, and your call sign is Dizzy. You and a fellow pilot, Viper, have been scrambled into action. Seems there's a Piper PA-46 near Birmingham, Alabama that's in distress and causing a danger. You are scurrying across the runway to your jet, fastening your helmet, saying a silent prayer to St. Christopher for protection, like you always do. Viper is alongside you, shouting out the lyrics to Party in the USA and skipping high into the air. The Piper took off from Anderson, Indiana, headed for Destin, Florida. It had contacted air traffic control, saying that the windshield had imploded and the pilot was injured and bleeding profusely. He said he wasn't going to make it. Right after that transmission, the Piper leveled off and remained at 3,500 feet. You and your jet buddy are now screaming through the air, headed to intercept the Piper. You see it up ahead. Foxtrot 15, I have visual contact on Piper. Viper responds, Roger that, Eagle 3. Approaching on the left, be aware. He answers you, confirm, I'll take right. You surround the Piper. As you look over, you see that the plane's windshield is intact, plus the door is open. Negative for pilot, talk to me, Dizzy, Viper says. Roger that. You radio air traffic control. Dizzy to range control, entering point Alpha, confirm green range. You tell them about what you've seen, and the craft appears to be on autopilot. They advise you to continue following the Piper until the fuel runs out. You do so. Then, near the Blackwater River in East Milton, Florida, the plane crashes, just short of some houses by 75 yards. You and Viper look down at the wreckage, then turn back and head for base. Let's go play some dogfight football, Viper. Roger that.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
You're so welcome. So the authorities showed up on the ground, check out the wreckage.
You know, I've been to Destin and Milton, Florida.
Have you?
Oh, I know these towns.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know Floribama.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, have you crashed a plane there?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm waiting.
There's always time.
Yeah, give me time.
So the authorities, they show up, they check out the wreckage, plane smashed up, but the windshield and the windscreens were not damaged.
Not the imploded?
And there was no blood inside. Inside the wreckage of the plane, though, they found handwritten notes on the inside back cover of a campground book.
Okay.
And it said stuff like, windshield is spider cracking, doors open, bleeding very bad, and graying out. They're like script notes.
So was he planning on like that not getting caught? That wasn't supposed to be like his notes of like, oh yeah, I'm leaving what notes I can. I'm on a plane going down.
So
these are his notes for the radio, right?
Yeah, they start to piece everything together. See, obviously he jumped from the plane.
Yeah, and he expected the plane to crash nose down.
Yes, exactly.
And it like belly landed.
And exactly. So near Childersburg, Alabama, Coast Guard Investigative Service, they recovered cut parachute lines from tree branches, and then the actual parachute with a serial number that gets traced to Schrenker. He later admits to dumping a bag containing more than 1,400 ounces of gold worth around $2 million in the Coosa River when he floated down to Earth.
Wait, by mistake?
No, like on purpose.
Oh.
And it looks like he was hoping, he thought the plane would make it to the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, man.
And that they would be surprised that they wouldn't find a body. Yeah. They're like, he's claimed by Davy Jones's locker. But
he should have had a plan to bail from the plane over the Gulf of Mexico and someone pick him up in a go-fast boat.
No,
Otherwise,
but he doesn't want someone. He's got to do it alone.
Well,
so he lands in Alabama.
Yeah.
Walks across this river.
There's a lot of bad places to land there.
So many bad places. Goes into a house and tells them that he's had a canoe accident. And so
a canoe
they call the cops. The cops come, take him to a nearby hotel. And then the cops, they hear about the crash investigation. And so they scooted back to the hotel. Like, wait a second.
Like, where do we deposit that guy?
Sorry, dudes. He was long gone. He paid for his room in cash and then ran off into the woods next to the hotel.
He went that way?
Yeah. So he had parked a motorcycle with saddlebags that were like fully packed in a storage unit 7 miles away from the hotel.
7 miles.
And so he wasn't bad in his landing.
Not bad, yeah. 7 miles.
Authorities traced the storage unit to him a few days later. The motorcycle's gone. But his jeans that were like still wet and his socks were still wet, hiking boots, t-shirt, all in a nearby trash can. So he takes the motorcycle.
He really thinks about some details and not at all about others.
He rides to a campground in Florida. Okay. And he pays for a night at the campground.
Shout out KOA Campgrounds.
Yeah. Gathers up some firewood, buys a 6-pack of Bud Light.
Good place to hide out, by the way.
I guess. According to the New York Times, not really. Quote, in the midst of the manhunt, Mr. Schrenker had sent an email message to a friend, Tom Britt, back in Indiana, asking him to straighten out the facts being reported nationwide about the case. In the message, which Mr. Britt turned over to the authorities, Mr. Schrenker insisted that the windshield had really shattered, causing a loss of cabin pressure and a condition known as hypoxia, which can, quote, cause people to make terrible decisions.
Yeah, he had lack of oxygen.
Yeah, so federal marshals, they took only 1 day to catch him, thanks to a tip. 24 officers showed up and found that he'd cut himself at the campground. So they patch him up. He's airlifted to the nearest hospital. And so they search his computer. They take him to the hospital. He's fine. Okay. He's, like I said, he's not good at it.
Yeah.
When they search his computer, they found Google searches for stuff like how to jump from airplanes and how to open a parachute. Can I just say,
does everyone Google this stuff?
Can I say I am so toast if authorities ever go through my search history? Like, ridiculous crime research will be my downfall.
Oh, not only that, they would just be, they'd have so many leads and be so confused.
Oh, they'd be all over the place.
It'd be impossible.
Yeah. June 2009, Schrenker.
Now your shopping history.
Oh, that's a big problem too. Schrenker, he pleads guilty to charges of destruction of an aircraft and causing the Coast Guard to respond when no help was needed. For that, he gets sentenced to
There's a crime of hassling the Coast Guard.
A total, yeah. And it's the Coast Guard in there, but it was like Army
Navy
jets,
response
or Air Force jets.
Air Force,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Anyway, he gets sentenced to 51 months in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got another 10 years for all the securities fraud charges.
Yeah. Don't forget about that.
Don't forget that, the originals. He was ordered to pay the Coast Guard more than $34,000 in restitution. And Harley Davidson Credit Corporation, who held the lien on the plane, more than $871,000.
Wait,
and then
had he leveraged the plane to get the motorcycle? How does Harley Davidson come into this on a lien?
Idea. He had to pay restitution to the victims.
Okay.
At his sentencing, he told the judge, quote,
You mean his family and friends?
Yeah. Quote, he wanted to repay investors and rebuild his relationship with the 3 children he's seen only once since his arrest. He said he has bipolar disorder and he got caught in a downward spiral of stress after becoming addicted to painkillers. He's an excuse factory.
Yeah, he's just naming everything.
Let's take a break. When we return, I have the other fraudster I want to tell you about.
Oh, yeah.
Zaron.
Yo.
Okay, so I told you about Marcus Schrenker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, meet Matthew Cox.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
Mr. Cox, if you're
alias
nasty.
Joseph Carter, alias Gary Sullivan, alias Michael Eckert, alias Charles R. Bauer.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of other names.
A lot of aliases.
He was born in Florida in 1969, 1 year before Schrenker. Interesting. He struggled
Something about the lead back then in all of the food and the gas and everything.
Well, he struggled with dyslexia as a kid. Yeah. And as a result, school was tough for him and he felt really alienated.
Oh, I bet.
So he got really bad grades, made him feel like a failure. But it's worth mentioning now that you're not your grades.
Yes.
We force kids to put so much on grades and GPAs, and it's all garbage.
Yeah, but I am my grades because my grades sucked.
I'm everybody else's good grades. But grades are a metric of your ability to take a test or fit into an average.
Yeah, or follow some weird protocols that are arbitrary.
Yeah, it's not a measurement of intelligence or curiosity or value as a human. I'm sorry for the rant. I've just seen a lot lately about kids suffering over grades and pressure, and life's too short.
Yeah, and unlike a real measure of intelligence like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
The look on your face.
Real genius measurements. So dyslexia, right? That's in no way a roadblock. It's just something to work around.
Yeah.
It's so he demonstrates that by getting a degree in art illustration from the University of South Florida. The guy's really smart. After he graduated, he worked for a little bit of time in the insurance industry and then later as a mortgage broker.
Okay.
So Cox, he saw this world, all the paperwork and the deals and the really shaky regulation as prime hunting ground. It was ripe for fraud. And he figured he was just the person to pull this fraud.
Go to it.
But while he's working as a mortgage broker, he wrote an unpublished 317-page book called The Associates. And the novel's main character, who seemed a lot like him, goes all over the country committing mortgage fraud. And he would regale his coworkers with details about the book. And sometimes he would send the whole manuscript to people to see if they could verify the details or whether or not the cons inside were viable. This is a nightmare coworker.
Totally.
You've got someone who writes themselves as the protagonist in a novel, which is so obnoxious.
Generally, yes.
And then they won't shut up about it, pass. And then it turns out, oh no, he's just outlining.
The best part though is that he is confessing on himself. So at least there is that.
And he's getting a lot of witnesses to read it. And if you're just emailing it, okay, now you've got this digital. Anyway, his early cons were relatively small scale. So he would falsify loan applications or inflate property values, forge documentation to get unqualified buyers into homes.
So he's basically on the skim and doing things
He was
that.
early 2008.
Yeah.
He was, a decade ahead of time. And all of this was to make big commissions. But he got caught and he lost his job. He got convicted of mortgage fraud in 2002.
Oh, once again, early.
He was early to the game. I mean, had he waited, then the banks would have taken the fall, not him. He only got
Nobody
probation.
got caught on that one.
Not a one. He got probation undeterred. He went harder. So after his conviction, he got prohibited from working in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
No, not going to get stopped.
Yeah.
He just is expanding the craft. So first, he faked up a good credit score.
Okay.
And then he created fake identities using fake social security numbers and driver's license.
The Joe Carter, aka.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he'd steal the identities of toddlers, homeless people, vulnerable women. And he would cook up
Classy guy.
top notch. Cooked up phony W-2s, reference letters, bank statements, like titles, deeds, appraisals.
He created a job for himself.
Yeah. Employment records. He really did,
paperwork,
literally.
yeah.
So then he bought a bunch of rundown houses and condos with fake appraisal values.
Okay.
Sometimes like double or triple what they were actually worth.
Oh.
And then he'd go like sometimes 4 to 5 times the value.
Damn.
He'd get loans, take the money, and then let the properties go into foreclosure. Yeah.
Take the money and run, literally.
He did this thing called shotgunning, where he'd get a bunch of different lenders to loan against the same property within a short time frame, and none of them are aware of the others. And so he'd used forged satisfactions of mortgage to make it look like the property didn't have any liens when it did.
So he worked in this industry just long enough to learn how to
exactly. He's like,
cheat the loopholes.
I see the issues. I'm going to write a novel about it, and now I'm going to carry it out.
I'm going to exploit.
Yeah. So he pulled this fraud in a bunch of places: Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Texas.
Good states for it.
Yeah. And then it was through this, he amassed millions in fraudulent loans from lenders who did not suspect a thing.
Yeah, the
Millions.
South is really bad on keeping track of these $1 million scams like this. Just ask Brett Favre. I mean,
That's very true.
It's very clear that if you're in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, they're just like, we don't really care.
I'd rather not.
If you steal big, we applaud it.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? You got a great arm. So Cox was something of a ladies' man.
Oh, he's a coxman?
He's a coxman. He's a coxswain. He'd been married to a woman named Kayla Burgos.
Okay.
And when they divorced, then he dated a bunch of other women that he would include in his criming.
Did they know that?
Yeah, one was Allison Arnold. She she was married and had a kid.
Oh.
She didn't want to leave her life behind to join him on the criming, which he had discussed with her in detail and in which she
in emails?
partook. Yeah.
So she's like his part-time Bonnie.
Oh, she took him.
Clyde.
Yeah, but he took her to like Ocean's 11 and like other crime movies and was like,
this is what we
dissect
can do.
them. Yeah, we can do this.
We're studying.
So they split up. He starts seeing Rebecca Houck, a single mom with one kid.
Like Ethan Hawke, like Rebecca Hawke?
Hauck. Hawk.
Oh, Hawke. Yeah.
Hawk?
Hawke. Yeah.
Hawk.
Yeah, I know.
Go with
I'm
Hawk.
sure you're right. But
Who cares?
Yeah.
Sorry, Bex. So she had moved from Las Vegas to Tampa.
Okay.
Whew.
That's a heck of a jump.
After getting a bunch of debt and like going bankrupt in Vegas. She lost her job in Vegas because she forged her employer's name on checks.
Ooh.
So they're like there's peas in a pod.
Like checks for like plastic surgery.
I don't know.
It's like really easy to track.
But she's like, hey, look, gruesome twosome.
Yeah.
She hooked up with him on a dating app in Tampa.
There you go.
They're doing their fraud thing together, raking in the cash. But then they found out that Jeff Testerman, a reporter for the St. Petersburg Times, was investigating
both of them.
Cox.
Yeah.
So Houck ditched her kid and went on the run with Cox.
What?
Yeah.
That was the move?
That was the move. So the story that Testerman's writing comes out in the paper. It explains how Cox started a company called Urban Equities Incorporated. Kayla Burgos, the ex-wife, and this other business partner were the shareholders. And over 6 years, the company bought and sold nearly 60 homes. Kayla and the business partner, though, they couldn't keep the company going, and it gets put into receivership. Cox pulled all the money out from underneath them, and they lost everything. So around the same time, Tampa PD, they're opening an investigation into Cox, and then the FBI gets involved. So basically we say zoinks. And when they looked into the details, they saw that his houses seemed to always be valued way above the comps in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like his would be almost $200,000, but similar homes on the block were like $50,000.
Yeah, I was just about to say. So, do you have like an appraiser on his side? Like, how is he able to pull this?
He was just faking appraisals. No one's even going out and doing them.
No one ever goes to check.
No.
He just has it on paper, and everyone's good enough for me.
Yeah.
There's the seal.
And what's hilarious is that when the feds looked into the paperwork on the homes, they saw a lot of the fake names and were like, aren't those the characters from Reservoir Dogs?
Are you kidding me?
It was like Pink, Brown, yeah.
Mr. Pink owns his home. Mr. Brown owns his home.
So Cox and Houck, they skip town. Don't forget, he's still on probation. And now he's missing his meetings with his probation officer. First they went to Atlanta and they hid out, but like not really. He made a run to Mobile, Alabama, and used the identity of a former coworker to get credit cards and establish a good credit history.
Okay.
Then back in Atlanta, he cooked up some phony documents like he'd done before, rented a house. Then he cooked up more phony documents and went to banks asking for loans on the house he was renting. He was saying he owned it. Hundreds and thousands of dollars in loans. The man loved pop culture. He's got like the Reservoir Dog stuff. One of the loans that he took out was in the name of C. Montgomery Burns.
No.
The old guy from The Simpsons. Yeah. God bless. So he did this a bunch of times, and then they picked up and they moved to Tallahassee, Florida.
They're hitting all the spots.
They really are. But the authorities in Atlanta, they were onto him. So they tracked Mr. Burns and whatever other film and TV character names he'd used back to his real identity.
Okay.
Busted. So August 6, 2004, the Secret Service issued arrest warrants for Cox for conspiracy, identity theft, mail-in wire fraud, money laundering, and Social Security number fraud.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still a fugitive. They're like, I don't know where he is. I know he did it, but who knows where he is. 18 months after skipping town in Tampa, and more than 6 months after the Secret Service warrant, Allison Arnold resurfaced. She's the married one.
Right, yeah.
She'd been a part of these early fraud schemes. She always felt bad about it. And then she saw Cox on TV in a plea for information about a fugitive.
With a reward?
So she called the FBI and told them everything.
For a reward?
Well, what did it get her, right?
Yes. What did it?
I would hope a clean conscience, but it also got her 2 years in prison for identity theft and conspiracy to commit bank fraud.
Because she called the FBI and told
on herself. Yeah. And she had to pay $300,000 in restitution to her victims.
Like, thank you for helping us find a criminal. The criminal is you.
Thank you for the hot tip.
Yeah, we're going to totally come over and bust you right now.
Exactly. Cox, still on the run.
He's still out there.
Still frauding it up. So she couldn't tell where he was then.
She only busted herself.
Yeah, she couldn't be like, oh, I know where he is. She's like, I know him. I crimed with him. Here's what we did. They're like, that's fantastic. Where is he now? I have no idea. I haven't seen him. He's got a new gal.
We'll stick with you for now.
Okay, let's circle back then.
So then the we of doing the crimes. You do hear that you did the crimes.
But you know what? It was like confession. So he's still out there. He goes to Columbia, South Carolina at this point. Yeah. Shotgun in 2 houses there. Mm-hmm. Racks up almost $900,000 in phony mortgages in just a few days. A data analyst at one of the lenders, though, thought that was fishy. Glad
someone's analyzing this data.
Seriously. Saw the duplicate loans and that they happened in such short succession. So they flagged the accounts for fraud, shut down the bank accounts. Cox, once again, undeterred. He goes to the bank to straighten things out. As soon as he got there, so did the cops.
Oh.
So they arrested him and they took him to the station, and he identified himself as Gary Lee Sullivan. Now, Gary Lee Sullivan didn't have any warrants, and he convinced the cops that this was all a clerical mix-up, the fraud flag. They let him go.
Are you kidding me?
No. So then Cox and Hawk, they take off and go to Houston. And she's
like a tour of like bands like Rat and Warrant. Like they were going to go from Tallahassee and then they went to Houston and then we're going to be in Mobile.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing
It's
tour.
A great list, yeah.
So Hawk, she's like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. She gets herself a fake name and is like, I'm going to live under the radar. You go on without me. He's like, great.
Go on without me.
Happy to do so. Goes to Nashville. And she was not successful at staying under the radar and hiding out because within a year, the Secret Service found her and arrested her. Oof. So she got convicted of all manner of fraud and theft. She gets sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Ouch.
With 5 years of supervised release.
Oh, man.
And Cox, well...
Still on the run?
He made it to the big time. He was now on the Secret Service most wanted fugitives list.
Yeah, my man.
So Nashville... living his best life as a guy named Joseph Carter. Has a new girlfriend, Amanda Gardner, another single mom.
He likes the A names.
Yeah, A names, single moms. She didn't know he was a fugitive or that his name wasn't really Joseph Carter. She thought that he was just a contractor who specialized in upscale renovations. And he lived in a nice little house. He drove a nice car, said he came from money. They went on a cruise in Greece together.
Okay.
The passport, of course, was fake. But the fun they had was real, Zaron.
No, of course. Yeah. I would never question that.
Never. Back home, the babysitter, Patsy Taylor, thought something seemed off about Joseph Carter. She's a
one?
woman after my own heart.
I like
she was
this.
suspicious. She got bad vibes. So she did some research.
acted on 'em.
God bless, God bless. So he mentioned that he was originally from Florida. So she's like, okay, that's my jumping off point.
Okay.
And
Start there.
Eventually,
Put the pin in the map.
She was able to connect him to his true identity, Matthew Cox, major fugitive.
Wow.
Could you imagine that moment?
The joy
Whew.
for one of your people.
She's sharp though, like because she's worried about her safety and that of Amanda Gardner's son.
Yeah,
her
she's
charge.
looking out for
Yeah, so she wasn't
good
sure.
governessing.
Yeah, she wasn't sure the cops would take a 60-year-old nosy babysitter seriously. So she went to the real source of power and justice.
Yes.
The local press.
Yeah, oh, good.
So she got in touch with Jeff Testerman of
Hell
the St.
yeah.
Petersburg Times.
I got a fresh scoop for you,
He
Testerman.
wrote the initials.
Oh, yeah. You think I'm going to forget that name?
And he'd stayed on the case for 3 years at this point.
Good on him.
Determined to help catch the guy.
We need local journalism.
I love that. So Testerman gave Patsy, the babysitter, the contact information for Rebecca Houck's lawyer.
Okay.
Houck's family paid Patsy for Cox's address. They wanted to use this as leverage to chip some time off her sentence. And it worked.
Good.
The feds reduced her sentence from 70 to 42 months.
Wow.
Not bad.
That's a lot of years.
Yeah, now the feds have that address. November 16th, 2006, Cox gets arrested. Finally. Prosecutors described him as a master manipulator who exploited loopholes in the mortgage industry and caused financial devastation for lenders, innocent victims. He gets convicted and sentenced to 26 years in federal prison for charges including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, bank fraud, money laundering.
Wire fraud going to get you every time.
Every time. So off to prison he went. Let's pause here. When we return, I'm going to tell you about how Marcus Schrenker and Matthew Cox crossed paths. Zaron.
I'm loving this, Elizabeth.
Me
Now
too.
I can't wait till they cross paths.
So we got two guys with federal crimes
Yes.
on their backs.
Who are roughly the same age, about a year
Roughly the
apart.
same age, roughly the same kind of
interests.
crimes.
Yeah.
So after his 2007 conviction, Cox, he got sent to a couple different medium security federal prisons over the years, Florida, Georgia. I can tell you that entertainment and educational materials are in short supply in the federal pen.
Yes, please donate books if you want.
Inmates are super hungry for any distraction, and they read every single line in newspapers or magazines that they get. They analyze everything because there's so much time to think. I think I've mentioned to you that when we'd drop off their textbooks at the start of the semester, they'd have read them all at least once in their entirety before the first class met. It's awesome. I loved it.
I bet. As a teacher, that's got to be amazing.
Yeah. They're like totally prepared. They have a question about chapter 11 when you're first like writing your name on the board. Oh, okay. Hold on. We'd have classroom discussions. And if something came up that I didn't know an answer to, in a regular classroom, I'd look it up on the computer there and we'd talk about it. There's no internet in a federal facility. And so one time this student asked me how exactly they were able to draw maps hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like, how did they get the coastlines so exact?
Sure.
And it was a
Great question.
It was a non sequitur. It was just like a random question after seeing a map in the textbook. And I wasn't really sure. Like, I mean, I had like an idea, but I was curious too. So when I got back to my office, I found a bunch of articles about the process and I made little readers for the class, like 25 pages or so of information, one for everybody.
Dope.
Yeah, well, they lost their minds.
I would too if anyone ever did that for me.
Because it didn't have anything to do with what we were talking about in class. And I was like, just read these and now, we'll talk about it later after everyone's read it.
It's rare someone takes your curiosity that serious. That's remarkable.
But I mean, like, I, as a curious person, my God, I'm like stoked when anyone else.
Namaste. My curiosity recognizes your curiosity.
Buy one, get one, Zaron. I could get the stuff into them as class materials.
Yeah,
because
it's printed, right?
Kind of were, yeah. So we had this thing where at the end of the week, they'd agree on one interesting, like, niche, non-controversial topic.
Yes.
Or like something sometimes I'd get to pick. And then I'd make the little information packs for them for the next week. And so one of the times I got to pick, I brought them a pack that included your article about Black Cowboys and Nat Love.
Oh, wow.
It was a huge hit.
Oh, really?
Just FYI, yeah.
Nice.
So,
that's really flattering.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Anyway, Cox, smart guy. And he had a lot of time on his hands.
Okay.
So he had a college education. He had a background in art and communications, a flair for storytelling that he'd honed while creating fake identities and fabricating entire life stories. So once he's behind bars, he starts to channel that creative energy into something else, the written word.
Oh, I thought you started like, a theater group.
No, he starts writing, baby. So he said that there are a lot of reasons why he began writing in prison. For one, he said it's a matter of redemption and catharsis.
Okay.
In interviews, he described writing as a way to process everything that he had done.
I recommend that.
Yeah, and like reflect on the consequences. It allowed him to explore themes of deceit, manipulation, moral collapse.
See things from multiple perspectives.
Yeah. It gave him narrative control because, like, someone who lived by lies and false personas, writing's this way to regain control of the narrative.
You become the authority.
Yeah. It's a business opportunity.
Oh, of course there's that.
So, yeah, he knows how to make a buck and he knows what people want. He saw that there's a market for true crime stories, especially insider perspectives. And he's sitting on a gold mine of material from his own life and from the inmates.
Everyone around him.
Everybody.
They're all experts.
So he gets to writing. His first major manuscript wasn't about his own life. It was the biography of a fellow inmate, John Thomas Ambrose, a former gun trafficker.
Oh.
He called it Once a Gun Runner. And the book was ghostwritten by Cox and served as a pilot for a series of inmate biographies that he envisioned producing from prison. So the project,
like a Time Life book series, but of inmates.
Exactly. And this is like how it showed how talented he was with the long form narrative.
Okay.
That he had like this really dramatic, engaging style. It was journalistic, but literary at the same time.
Creative nonfiction.
Yeah. And so he gets that project going, and then he turns the pen toward his own life. So he starts working on this like memoir-like manuscript, tentatively titled Bent. And he did a deep dive into his early forays into mortgage fraud. Like he investigated the psychological dynamics of white-collar crime, the mechanics of identity theft and forged documents. He talked about his years on the run.
So it's like kind of a guidebook and a diary.
And also like all the manipulative relationships that he fostered. He's very honest about it. He wrote it like a novel, and he layered all this detail and dialogue and narrative arc. He said that he wanted the story to, quote, read like fiction, but be all true.
Yeah.
But he didn't stop at autobiography. He started writing crime thrillers based on real life cases of other white collar criminals and scam artists that he met in prison. Some of those were later adapted or used for his post-prison podcast, Inside True Crime.
Oh.
So he wrote these works longhand on legal pads and then later typed them on prison typewriters.
Okay.
That's super common, obviously, because like they don't have
the internet.
So the computer use is what are you going to use it for?
I didn't know they didn't.
They had like
internet.
word processors.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about it.
I had students who were writing books. They'd ask me to read their stuff and like workshop it. And there was one guy who was writing a real corker of a book. It was really, really good about a crooked cop, which I later found out he was.
Oh, there you go. Write what you know, Elizabeth.
It's good stuff. I had another student, Carlos Walker. He's an artist and a writer. He's out now. He's doing great work.
Oh, nice. What's his name?
Carlos Walker.
Okay.
There's incredible talent.
Definitely.
Out in the world, and that includes in the prison system. So Cox, he's writing all these big books. Sometimes he'd have friends or supporters outside the prison transcribe his work for him, so he's just sending them in hand. They're typing it up.
Okay.
There are hurdles other than like no internet and technology in lockup. They can't really
no writers groups.
Well,
it's hard to get feedback.
It's hard to get a true workshop going.
Yeah, everyone's really aggressive in the workshop.
It is. Inmates can't really profit from work produced in prison.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, because it's considered part of their crimes. Because if they're writing about what they know,
right? And then also, I think you just can't have like a venture that makes money. I don't know.
You couldn't have a cookbook, something that's clearly not tied to their crimes.
I don't think you can.
Wow.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Who knows?
There are restrictions on contact, though, with like publishers or agents.
Yeah, I figured this.
Just sending an email will cost them money. And a lot of times the emails don't make it through, but they still get charged.
Yeah, I've used JPay.
Yeah, I had students. I'd come to class and they'd be like, "I tried to send you an email." I'm like, "Don't ever do that," because number one, I didn't get it. Number two, it cost you like $3.
Yeah, you have to put money in their account sometimes if they want to email you.
Ridiculous.
It's a whole thing.
So to get around these challenges, Cox relied on third parties to help him submit the manuscripts or to post content to a website. And in at least one case, he had an outside contact start a blog or like would arrange media interviews.
Okay.
So in the summer of 2013, Marcus Schrenker came into the picture. So he was going to get out in about a year when he sat down with Cox at a prison dining table at FCI Coleman, Florida. He tells Cox, "Boy, do I have a story for you." And so,
I hear you like stories.
Like, the thing is, it's like, we've talked about this before as a writer. People come up to you and are like, I have a great story.
Great idea for a book.
My life would make a great book. And I always want to say, no, it wouldn't. I love you to death, but no, it wouldn't. Anyway, so that's like this poor, like Cox is like, he's got to take people's offers because he's sitting there in like just incredible material.
So, and you never know what gold is underneath the rock you may overturn.
Like I could just feel it. Like, have I got a story for you? No, you don't.
Most of the time.
So Schrenker, he didn't like how his story was being told out in the world. He wanted someone to set the record straight.
He wanted narrative control.
Yeah, and Cox, he's the writer, the storyteller, the one to set the record straight.
I can give that to you.
Cox said, quote, "The guy told me that he shouldn't even be in prison." And Cox, wonders if that's true. Honey.
Come on.
You're going to hear that a whole lot. Yeah. So Schrenker tells Cox that he hadn't bilked anyone, that the investments just didn't land. And he told Cox, quote, "I'd sold a bunch of index annuities that ended up underperforming. And that wasn't my fault. I can't be blamed for the market." So Schrenker said that while he was trying to get the insurance companies to refund his clients, his wife found out about his affair. And that she got her revenge by opening up an offshore currency account, committing all sorts of fraud and pinning it on him.
Yeah, right.
So she's a woman scorned. He's a patsy.
He's a sucker. I'm the victim here.
I baby. So in order to avoid prison, Schrenker said, "I'm going to fake my own death with the plane thing."
Yes,
Cox told Forbes magazine, quote, "It was obviously a very sensational story, but still, I wanted to believe it. I wondered if there was an angle to the story that the media had missed." So remember, no internet in the clink. So Cox, he couldn't do a deep dive.
He can't do research, yeah.
He could, though, ask his literary agent, who was not in prison, to do the digging for him.
Oh.
Like, hey, get me some dossiers, basically.
Yeah.
So the agent mailed him newspaper articles, court transcripts, and those sources did not match up at all with what Schrenker was trying to tell him. So, determined to get to the truth, Cox filed a Freedom of Information Act request.
Are you kidding? On a fellow inmate.
And that confirmed that Schrenker's ex-wife wasn't in on any of it.
Of course
not. The
not.
fraud, not the plane crash. That's all him. Cox told Forbes, quote, "What was clear was that everyone from the prosecutors to his victims were calling Schrenker a habitual liar. He alone had bilked multiple clients and companies out of millions." So it turns out that Schrenker had approached a bunch of writers outside of prison, like shopping his story about being framed by his ex. And each one had looked into this history and found him to be totally lying in his version of things. They're like, no one's going to sink time into something that will be blown up before it's even published.
Yes, especially with just a little bit of research, you can confirm that this is all BS.
But here's the thing, though, Zaron. Cox is a storyteller.
Oh, no.
And he knew there was actually a story in all of this after all. He told Forbes again, quote, "I saw Schrenker as a puzzle. Unlike an author on the street outside of prison, I had plenty of time, unfettered access to Schrenker, and according to my prosecutor, an uncanny ability to discover a mark's vulnerability."
Oh.
Oh my God. It's like spy versus spy.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, it's tables are being turned, Zaron. So Cox is like, you know what, Schrenker? Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to interview you for your book. And he's like getting him to go deep dive on the details of his story and then like on his life outside of the fraud, like his inner workings. He wasn't writing an expose about a man done wrong by society and serving time for a crime he didn't commit. He was writing a profile of a pathological liar.
Yes.
And so at last, finally, the book, Bailout, The Life and Lies of Marcus Schrenker. So Schrenker reads it, loses it. He's so mad.
Orders a jailhouse hit.
This was not how he saw this going. And that's a brave thing for Cox to have done.
Who's still inside.
Show it to him while they're still in lockup together. Because like Schrenker had, a year left? Like just hold off. But not long after Schrenker got out. And the thing is, though, when you think about it, it's like, based on what I've read about their personalities, I feel like Schrenker probably irritated the ever-loving issues out of everybody.
Yeah.
And if he pitches a fit, and Cox probably enamored himself
with everybody,
with everyone because he's entertaining.
He's like a jailhouse lawyer type where everybody likes him.
Right.
He's looking out for
I'm
people.
sure that he was, Schrenker's just barking and everyone's ignoring him. So he gets out. He goes to a halfway house. The manuscript stayed with Cox in prison. But when Cox got out in 2019, he had like this tight, thrilling manuscript that was just ready for him to publish. So he had all of his true crime writing. He wanted to get it out there. So he started an online magazine, InsideTrueCrime.com. And there's also the podcast, Inside True Crime. There's YouTube stuff. He self-published his books, and he posted what I think is an abridged version of Bailout on the website. Schrenker found it, lost it again. He filed a complaint under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Oh.
And then he reached out to the DOJ, the Department of Justice.
Like a takedown request, essentially.
Yeah. Tells the Department of Justice that he had not participated in the story, and the story is a complete fabrication, that Cox is harassing him. And my dude, this is all carefully researched. Like,
it's your story.
I'm
it's
sorry
your court
that
transcript.
your story makes you look like crap, but that was your life choice.
Maybe you shouldn't have lived it.
Maybe don't do that. Let this be a lesson to all of those who meet a writer and say, I have a great story for you. Or like, my life would make a great book. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, maybe it will be a great book that you hate.
That you hate. So Cox, he was able to back everything up that he had. Everything that was thrown at him was just dropped. And then Cox, he's now a fixture in the true crime storytelling space.
Good for him.
Zaron, what's your takeaway?
Oh, man. Well, you kind of already said it, which is the be careful what you wish for with a writer.
Yeah.
Like, people always think like, oh, could you tell my story? And I'm like, I can.
I don't know if you want that.
The audience may like it. You may hate it.
Or people who, I don't know. I used to think like people who cross you and you're like,
oh, you're screwed. With a writer? Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna light you up.
And if I got a strong enough lawyer, I'll put your own name on it.
Yeah, right. But like, you can light someone up so bad, and like, it's, plausible deniability. The name's not the same, but like little things.
Yeah. So there you go. I think that would be mine, is that like, never go to a writer with the idea that you can control that process.
Very true. Very true. My ridiculous takeaway, thank you for asking.
No, I guess I want to hear it.
I guess.
What is it, Elizabeth?
I was thinking about how we've had the authorities tell these criminals a bunch of times of like, you're so talented. If you just put your efforts toward. Yes. But then, and I was thinking, oh yeah, like Matthew Cox is so talented. But like, it's so hard to make a living as a writer.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's kind of like, I don't blame him.
No. Crime is always tempting.
Do the crimes. And then like that now it's his springboard. Now he can run with it.
Now,
and I'm glad
he's an expert in a field.
There it is. So good. Dave, I think I need to talk back.
I think we both do.
Talk back. Oh my God, did he just say that?
OMG.
Hey, Ridiculous Crime. This is Arden in San Antonio, and I wanted to share my ridiculous sea monkey story. When I was younger, I went to a summer day camp, and one time they had a Bring Your Pet Day. Unfortunately, I didn't have a pet, so my quit-thinking mom got me some sea monkeys. And the good news is they won the camp award for most unique pet. The bad news is that on the way home, they spilled in the back of my mom's wood-paneled station wagon. And yes, Elizabeth, sea monkeys do smell awful, especially when they're in a car's interior.
Oh my God.
Yes. That was awesome.
That is so good. The wood-paneled station wagon is
my
just
eyes
sending
lit up
me.
at that.
How many dead sea monkeys do you think are in the interior of
wood-paneled
old
station wagons around the country?
I think a lot. But that's rad. You got the award. Awesome. I love that. That's it for today. You can find us online at ridiculouscrime.com, which is on the most wanted list as a fugitive. Did you know that? Our
I did
website?
not.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. We're at Ridiculous Crime on Blue Sky and Instagram. You can email ridiculouscrime@gmail.com. You can go to YouTube. We're Ridiculous Crime Pod, and you can check us out there. Leave a talkback on the iHeart app. Reach out. Ridiculous Crime is hosted by Elizabeth Dutton and Zaron Burnett. Produced and edited by jailhouse publishing magnate Dave Kustin. Starring Annalise Rutger as Judith. Research is by aircraft windshield salesperson Marissa Brown. The theme song is by Warfighters Thomas Lee and Travis Dutton. Post wardrobe is provided by Botany 500. Guest hair and makeup by Sparkleshot and Mr. Andre. Executive producers are literary agents to the stars and those behind bars, Ben Bolin and Noel Brown.
Ridiculous crime.
Say it one more time.
Ridiculous crime.
Ridiculous Crime is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.